Heyo people, it's Freeloader from Team AQZ. It is time for me to rate the new Muna cards of Whispers from the Maze. I'm rating the cards for the competitive constructed metagame, yet this makes Muna a slightly awkward faction to review, as Muna is, of all the factions, in terms of competitive results, the most lopsided faction, as there is one dominating Muna deck with little competition, especially due to a certain type of unique. Who knows exactly what type of unique I'm talking about? Could be anything. Nonetheless, I will give it my best effort, but before we head on into the cards, let's take a look at the rating system. Starting with the 1-star cards, these are cards I expect will see no play. 2-star cards are ones that might pop up in fringe decks, but are probably not cards you're going to see all the time. 3-star cards are playable cards and you will get to know them. 4-star cards are powerful cards that often end up being build-arounds but don't fundamentally break the game. And finally, 5-star cards are going to be those that either do break the game or are going to see play in every single deck in that faction, or are such powerful cards in a specific strategy that it enables an entire deck to exist on its own. Alright, and with all of that finally out of the way, let's get into the cards. Our first card up is the Burrowing Noosh. Being a 1-cost, this card has tons of utility. For Festivalists, this will help you combo off consistently when you're trying to go off, and I could see this being played in Rin decks as well. At Rare, it might be interesting for Argent as a turn 1 play in combination with some spells. But because both Rin and Argent are struggling a lot in competitive, I still do not have too much faith in this card. I'm going to give the common a 3-star rating and the rare a 2-star rating. Another fellow animal plant is the Bumblebeet. It's also a 1-cost card from hand and will provide good utility because of this. At common, it has a good base stat distribution. Keep in mind that a 1-cost 1/1/1 for 1 and a 2-cost 2/2/2 for 2 are both absolutely reasonable cards to be playing at common, and that is the baseline of the Bumblebee. At rare, the extra cost from reserve is a bit hefty, but because of that very sought after anchor ability, it might still find some play here and there. So Bumblebee is getting a 3-star rating at common for me and a 2-star rating at rare. Fair Fox is a fun little card. It's designed for these group hug strategies, however a single stat point over average at the cost of resupplying an opponent is just not going to be worth it in Altered. At rare, this Fox is a bit more interesting as that resupply is now optional, and in exchange you're getting utility in the form of permanent removal. And there are notably lots of new targets printed for Fair Fox to hit. But still, I just don't believe in using a rare slot for this type of effect, and I doubt it's going to be worth it. Fair Fox at common is getting a 1-star rating, and at rare it is getting a 2-star rating. The new token good boy of the game, Cuddly Corgi, is far more menacing than what they look like. I almost feel like I should give this card 2 ratings, as already at common, alongside with what are currently the best unique anchoring effects, this combos to continuously trigger one another, anchoring the entire board while boosting up the Cuddly Corgi. At rare, you even get to choose where the boosts go. Without these uniques in the game, I would be rating this way lower, but as things stand, Cuddly Corgi is a 5-star at common and a 4-star at rare. Next up is Flore, carrying Gardner. Legend says this is Kohlrabi's wife, or so I've heard. Flore has a really interesting support ability, but as with all of these static support abilities, it's going to be really difficult to keep Flore in reserve without overflowing your reserve. I don't expect the upside is going to be quite enough to make Flore see a lot of competitive play. The rare upgrade as well is, in my opinion, just a little too unimpactful to be worth a rare slot. And so Flore, unfortunately, is only getting a 2-star rating at common and a 1-star rating at rare. The Little Mouse is a really cool new addition for the Muna faction, as it is its first common sabotage option. And also, to boot, actually has decent stats. I mean, from reserve, this is the same as a Baba Yaga was from reserve. The rare upgrade is actually also fairly high value. Getting another sabotage effect as well as an additional stat point is pretty good. The main issue I have with the rare is that I don't think any hero can make proper use of this. Both Tasia and Arjun aren't really interested in the rare upgrades this card provides. Maybe Rin can make a little bit of use out of the Little Mouse, but even there I think it's tough. It's cool to finally see a group hug card that actually looks pretty good. Still, the Little Mouse is only getting a 3-star rating at common and a 2-star rating at rare. Luminous Swarm at that 4 cost is already more expensive than any of the Muna heroes are really designed for. While it is a cool card, it's also pretty understated, so I'd be surprised to see Luminous Swarm pop up in any competitive decks, and it's getting both a 1-star at common and at rare as well. Gran Bwa shares that issue of being a 4-cost card from hand, so it is just not really easy to re-anchor or anything like that. It is another one of these group hug cards, but that gives your opponents more resources, which is pretty bad in general. However, being a 4-cost 4/4/4 anchored is really strong in theory. So because of that, I am going to be giving Gran Bwa a common ace 2-star rating and at rare a 1-star. Arawn is another expensive card. It does synergize with animals, but I don't think the animal package is going to be getting there quite yet. The scout it has is pretty overcosted given that even charge was cut from Ordis lists that have a significantly easier time getting tons of characters into play. So nothing too impressive here, everything's a bit overcosted. And Arawn is getting a 1-star common and at rare as well. The Minotaur is another card that is just a bit overcosted in everything that it does. Anchoring for 3 cost is not quite worth it, and a 6-cost 5/5/5 even with an anchor attached is not great due to how bad expensive cards are. Notably for the rare, you can do that Big Man Ting on a Bive Brav combo where you couple it with the Floral Tent and you cheat out a 3-cost 5/5/5. However, I don't think that using a rare slot for this is going to be worth it, and so the Minotaur is getting both a 1-star at common and a 1-star at rare. Sap Dispersal at common is pretty neat. There are some decks that could maybe make use out of this, like Rin Scrooge or something. At rare, Sap Dispersal, it just looks too cumbersome to me. It's a win more card on a rare slot, and I don't think that's a great recipe for success. So Sap Dispersal is getting a 2-star rating at common and a 1-star rating at rare. Requiem is a really cool new tool for Muna. The fact that it's cost 2 means that there's going to be tons of spots where Requiem will help you out to maybe win an expedition or remove a landmark, where a card like Lost in the Woods was just a little bit too clunky. So I think it's a great addition. I know it's a support card, still it just does so much. At rare, I don't think Muna can make proper use of this cooldown upgrade as they do not return their cards from reserve to hand. So Requiem is getting a 4-star at common and a 1-star at rare. Sustenance is probably the card I'm most excited for out of the Muna faction. Getting a common ramp spell is really cool. The fact that it draws is really useful as well. At rare, the upgrade is arguable, as it is honestly, in my opinion, more of a downgrade. It's more expensive. Yes, it ramps only you, but drawing your opponent a card in terms of value is kind of the same. So value-wise, you're getting the same effect for just more expensive. It's a worse turn 1 play, etc, etc. Sustenance at common I think is going to go great for like festival lists and maybe a couple other rogue strategies out there. So I'm giving Sustenance a 4-star at common and a 1-star at rare. The Undergrowth is a cool landmark at cheap cost. It has a pretty minor effect, and I honestly doubt it's going to be enough of effect to see relevant competitive play, especially due to the fact that people will be on the lookout for these cheap landmarks and are likely going to be playing tons of removal for it. So I doubt it's going to end up being worth it, but a common might be worth your slot. The rare, it's an upgrade in the sense that it's conditional on what your opponent does, and that I don't think is usually worth a rare slot, so I'm giving the common a 2-star rating and the rare a 1-star rating. The farm is a really interesting landmark because, as I just said, we're going into this situation where people are looking to remove your landmarks, and so that makes the farm lose a lot of value. But the farm really has an effect that a lot of Muna decks want to have, so they might try and run it anyway. I think at common, the farm is just a little bit too overpriced to be worth it, and at rare, I just see the issue that people won't find the rare slots to fit this into their Muna decks. So although I actually think this card is quite powerful, it feels like it's the perfect storm of everything going wrong for it, and hence both the common and rare are getting a 2-star rating from me. That was all for the in-faction cards, so now we're going to be moving to the out-of-faction cards, starting with the Bravos Pendekar. Bravos Pendekar, it's a nice effect. It has that sabotage that Muna is lacking often, but 2 boost requirement just feels pretty hard to do, especially if you're using a rare slot on an effect like this, and I don't really see a lot of Theseus players giving up those rare slots, so I'm going to give Bravos Pendekar a 1-star rating. Spirit Wielder is a really interesting card. Assuming you can get one other anchored character out, it's already pretty efficient. I think the main issue for Spirit Wielder is that it is a candidate for the current Theseus deck, where the rare slots are already A, really contested, and B, incredibly strong. So, not sure if Spirit Wielder will make the list. It's probably going to be replacing Lyra Thespian, something along those lines in that list, if at all. I think some people will go with it, and so for that reason, I'm going to give it a 3-star rating. Talarian Skater is a cool card for potentially something like an Argent deck to cheaply get a card in reserve that you can then sack to anchor. However, I think if you are playing an Argent deck like that, you wouldn't want to typically use a rare slot on this type of effect, since usually you want more powerful, impactful things. You want the things that you're anchoring to be your rares. So I don't expect Talarian Skater to see a whole lot of play, and it's going to get a 1-star rating. Aoife Fire Avatar fills the exact same niche in being a card you can play from your hand cheaply, get into your reserve, and sack with an Argent ability for an anchored. But because it removes fleeting, it might actually see a little bit of play. I don't expect this to be great, so I'm going to give Aoife a 2-star rating. Theseus is quite the big boy, still pretty understated for its cost. Its effect is kinda nice as a removal, but being so expensive, you're often not gonna have a target. Free cost just to intimidate something is rarely going to be worth it as well. So unless we get something that actually helps Muna play a ramp deck, like Arjun not having a cap on who its ability can be used on, or a new hero entirely in set 4 maybe. Until then, I don't think Theseus is going to see any play, and is getting a 1-star rating. The Stew is a thematically awesome card. It has a glaring issue though, which is that it gives a character or multiple characters seasoned. The issue with this is that in Muna, at the moment, if your game plan is working out, then your characters are never leaving the expedition anyway. So you're completely wasting your rare slot. The Stew is getting a 1-star rating. Lyra Contortionist probably has the most interesting support ability in the game at the moment, at least in my opinion. The issue it has is that it is understated for its cost, also that Muna can't really make a proper use from this support ability, so Lyra Contortionist is just a 1-star card. Sap Duende is a really awesome card that I actually think that, depending on the metagame, can play reasonably well into a variety of decks. Right? It's really good into things like Katagir and Mage Dancer, for example. The issue for Sap Duende in Muna is that none of the Muna heroes really want to use a rare slot on this, and also don't really fit the playstyle of this card all that much. Unfortunately, I really like this card, but I don't really see it getting played in Muna. It's getting a 2-star rating. X Marks the Spot is another free cost removal option for Muna. However, it neither hits landmarks, nor is it guaranteed to cost 1 less, which, I mean, occasionally it will, which is nice, but you can't plan your turn around it. So for competitive, I don't think this card will see any play at all, and is getting a 1-star rating. Ordis Accountant is a super interesting card. It has a fine cost to stat ratio, both from hand and from reserve. Especially, a very nice utility effect from reserve as well. Being a rare slot, it does contest with a ton of other good cards. I think Ordis Accountant will probably only see play in decks that have a Festival Plan B of winning. If you have a Plan A of Festival, I think there's more efficient cards to be running for the effects. And if you have a no Festival at all, I think there's probably better cards to just win expeditions. But maybe that niche right in between in some Rin deck or something is going to be where Ordis Accountant shines. So I'm going to give it a 2-star rating. Leo Relic Expert is a card specifically designed for Argent, the way it looks to me. Unfortunately, it just takes so much to make this card work. And even then, it's not even a free cost, free. Not only do you need to discard something from reserve to anchor it with Argent, you also need something else to remove a counter from. And I think that's just too much to ask for, and is why Leo Relic Warden is getting a 1-star rating. Ariadne might just be the most understated rare I have seen yet. And so that's gonna be a 1-star rating right there. Simurgh is another card for the ramp archetype in Muna. The issue, much like many other ramp payoffs, is that Simurgh is just a little bit on the weaker side of things. Stat-wise, I'm not impressed by this card, and its effect is also not exactly what you want out of a big expensive card like this. So because of that, and because again there are no heroes that really support this ramp Muna archetype, Simurgh is getting a 1-star rating. The Town Square is a pretty cool card. For most Muna decks, it's going to be pretty hard to get enough counters onto the Town Square to use it consistently. If you do have a perma setup in Tasia, then this will keep it alive very easily. However, at that point, it's again a bit of a win more card, and it's a rare slot contesting with tons of really strong options when you could also just be running Cuddly Corgi at common. So unfortunately for Town Square, I don't think it's going to see a lot of play, and it's getting a 2-star rating. Pasiphaë is a cool card. I really like cards designed like this to counter certain metagames. You know, if Sigismar is ever as dominant as it was before, it's a cool card that you can just run to win an expedition against those types of decks. That being said, I don't really expect Sigismar to be great, and even if it was the case, I don't think good Muna decks at the moment have the rare slot to give away on a utility card like this, so Pasiphaë is going to get a 1-star rating. That was it for all the card rating. I do hope when we come back in a couple of months we will find me to be completely off about a lot of these, and that Argent and Rin will be thriving in the new metagame. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video and that you will swing by again for the next one.